Hello and welcome to Courageous Conversations.
We're here to talk honestly about race, faith, and what it really means to love our neighbor at all costs.
Each and every episode, we are going to sit down with friends and leaders from across Kansas City to share stories. We're going to ask hard questions and we'll laugh a little bit along the way.
To unite people, unite neighborhoods, and eventually unite KC. Let's jump into today's conversation.
Well, good evening, good morning, and good night wherever you are. This is Ray Jarrett, and I'm here with my co-host, Gary
Hello.
Kendall. And today is another episode of Courageous Conversations, and boy, is it going to be a good one. Gary, why don't you introduce our guest?
Sure. We're really glad to have Jeremiah Enna with us today. And Jeremiah is a person who plays a key role in Kansas City when it comes to the things we talk about, which is courageous conversations, sparking people to talk about race, culture, some of the things that people don't want to talk about. So thank you for being a part of this conversation.
You are very welcome.
And one of the things I want to let our viewing audience know is I have a new toy. It's a clicker that shows me how we're doing on time. And that may be of interest to everybody who's out there.
Okay,
I'm going to put it down now.
Like you're done.
It's over. Okay.
It's over.
All right. Well, I want to just go ahead and cue you up. Jeremiah, we've known each other for years, and Unite KC would have still been a gleam in somebody's eye had it not been for the groundbreaking work that you've done through something called the Underground. It's a dance production, but I'm going to stop there and just kind of let you introduce it because there's a whole history between you and Mona coming, and I'll let you kind of tell your own story.
Yeah, I mean, Underground really changed our lives. And basically, for those who don't know, which is probably most of the people watching, I run the Culture House, which is an arts organization. And part of the Culture House has a professional dance company, as you guys know, Sterling Dance Theater. And we moved, I'm American, but I lived in Sweden a long time after college. Mm-hmm. And I met Mona. She's from Finland. I met her while I was over there. We met in Israel during a conference. And then when she joined our organization and our dance company, and we spent years traveling around Europe and kind of experiencing and testing and talking about the arts and culture. And we were a Christian organization, and so we were Christians and talked about, well, if the Bible's true, why is it not affecting the arts and media world? And that was a lot because a lot of artists we knew, including my own, the arts industry, the culture of the arts world is pretty devastating to your personal lives, right? The cost is so high. So we were asking those questions. And then we moved here in 1995 to start.
Which I remember.
That's right, because we met you early on.
You were young kids.
We were still young and beautiful, not the tired remnants holding on to our breath. And I remember specifically, it was an election cycle, the year 2000, and hadn't lived in the States for quite a while, and I heard all this racial language, black, white, racism, and there was a lot going on. And I thought, what happened while I was gone?
Right.
Why is this? This seems like we're going backwards, not forwards. And so we started praying about, what can we do? Just simply, not we're going to take over the world, but simply what can we do in our position? And basically we came up on the Underground Railroad story, and I thought, this is really the story for our time. We need this story because it specifically it's a historic era. It can't be denied.
Right.
That the abolition movement, driven by the gospel of Jesus Christ, is really what broke the back of slavery around the world.
Right.
Human beings love slavery. We love to enslave each other. It's the history of humanity. And here you have, it's, of course, England. It reaches over to the States. But the end of slavery started there and started, resounding ripples throughout the world.
Right.
And so the Underground Railroads really shows that it's not white versus black.
Right.
But good versus evil.
That's right.
And so we thought, this is really the story. It's in our homeland.
Right.
And it's a part of our history. And if we don't look at this, we will repeat. We'll keep repeating
Yeah.
the same mistake. So that's what started Underground. And then, of course, it took 4 years to create, and an incredible dance company. Some of the members are still in it that were original members
Right.
of the cast. And you know, for 19 years, we've done it annually in Kansas City, and it's brought so many great people together. And, you know, when we first started, people were like, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why are you doing this story? Oh, I remember it from 5th grade, someone told me. And I'm like, well, you should have read it harder. And, you know, white folks, why are you doing it? Black folks, wait, are you really going to do this?
That's right.
And then they said, well, we need to have a little talk, because they had basically not been talking boldly with their friends who
Right.
weren't black.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started hearing from our close friends experiences, perspectives. So that's the background on it. And when the Kaufman Center in Kansas City opened, Dr. Chu called and said, would we move it to the Kaufman Center for that opening year and make it its home? And so we can't say enough about the vision of the Kaufman Center, the leadership, the current leadership, the Kaufman, you know, Julia Kaufman. We can't say enough about their vision for the city and what it's done for our work.
Yeah.
But it was really been a place that drew the whole city.
Mm-hmm.
And this story has kind of planted a lot of seeds. So that's the story on Underground.
I remember you coming and doing vignettes at Indian Creek Community Church.
I think we only did
Yes.
vignettes at your church
Yes.
because you were open to it.
We wanted it. Yeah.
You wanted it, and you were the first sponsor,
Right.
you know,
Right.
which was huge because we just had pennies to get this done.
I don't
In fact-
know that we helped you much financially, but
Well-
it certainly was a ripple effect of ground moving. The more people that said, we need to tell this story.
Yeah,
Like we need to know this story. There's a lot of the story that's not told in history.
that's right.
It is told in the theatrical performance.
That's right. It's shown, and it brought people together that
Yeah.
needed to be together, and it continues to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so, and there's been so much great work. And I mean,
Yes.
Kansas City is very friendly,
Right.
you know, and whether it's the church or people who don't go to church, there's still that civility that's valued, and this brought everyone together because it's so important. You know. It's so important.
Jeremiah, I remember the first. So Lorna comes home and she goes, "Hey, I'm going to be dancing in this thing." And I remember all the things that she danced in before. Not that she isn't a wonderful dancer, but I just remember what they look like and different things like that. And so I said, okay, we're going to kind of go, this is kind of a little community thing. And, I'm going to go be supportive and stuff. So I go. And one of the reasons why this is so impactful is I can't say enough about the majestic tapestry, the everything of this. It is so well done because if you think about it, it can't coexist year after year and be bad art. And you and I have talked about bad
That's
art
right.
before.
It's world class. It's
It
world class
is.
work.
Yes.
The lighting, the costumes. Mona's a costume designer as well, but she literally handmade each one and prayed over each. She said, "No, I want to do this myself because it was so important to her."
Mm-hmm.
And Lorna, an original cast member, but she actually carved out her own role. We call it the Egyptian queen role. and why that's important is when you see the show after, you start to fall in love with and identify and want to see certain characters. And she really crafted this. Her presence on stage, her performance has so much dignity.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so important to not showing the black community who were enslaved at the time is only pathetic, broken.
Right.
We showed families. We wanted to say, no, these were families. These weren't
Right.
just individuals. They were dignified people. They cared for each other and stuff. And so Lorna really held that place, as well as others had different places. But she is so important to what telling the story well means.
I really want to point out something. I don't want this point to be missed. As just influential as this play has been to shaping Kansas City's thought about race, I want to bring to the fact that Gary has been a long advocate of this movement, and I just can't imagine doing Unite KC with anybody else because of his long-standing involvement with this is right, this is what we should be talking about, this is how we should approach it. So again, thank you, Gary, for your pivotal role in the city for helping shape relationships.
I mean, really, it takes all of us in the different domains of our culture working in whatever context that we're a part of, whether it's the church or whether it's the business community or the medical world or whatever part, taking the message there.
Yeah.
That's what wins the day in the end.
Well, and I think one of the reasons we had success was there already was a platform. There already was different groups and communities that had been sharing this idea, having a heart for it. In fact, that's why an Underground could succeed. It wasn't just breaking up. In fact, I will not name the city, but we've performed in another city, and we gathered things, and the performance went well, and the people there loved it. But it also revealed what was just true, which was the churches weren't working together. Right. There was deep patterns that were upsetting in the city. And so when the pastor said, "Are you coming back?" I said, "Well, no, not until we get a better, we will come and do a luncheon and bring people together and plant the seed. But the church community first has to have that heart." And Kansas City had that. Both in the church world and outside. There was many efforts done to bring people together. So it was kind of prime for someone to come in with, let's call it an elevated vision artistically, that because the cast is half black, half white, mixed race. We got everyone in there. And so
I don't know that I really had realized the really unique role that the church played. Like I heard about people hanging quilts, on their clotheslines and things like that. And I heard that churches were sometimes a safe house, but I didn't realize until I saw the play, really, really key role and how the risk that these churches took. It was very courageous. And so we as a white church in those days at Indian Creek Community Church would celebrate Black History Month, which we only had very few blacks. But it was something to our people because they would go, "Why are we doing this?" And we would go, "Well, because this is a part of our history, a part of our culture. This is part of who we are as a country. We need to recognize this so we don't repeat it."
That's right.
And I remember one time not too long after we had watched, we'd always encourage our people to go down and see the theatrical performance. And then we went down to the place in KCK where the slaves actually had crossed. And we shot video and took some people down there and just talked about what it would have been like in those days to do this and the risks that people took. And then really that asked the question, what do we do today? Like that's where we wanted to go. But people were very curious about what happened, how did it actually play out? And then they wanted to go, well, what do I do today?
And I think one of the mistakes that our culture in general makes is thinking that it just happened because of good-heartedness. And it just isn't the truth.
Right.
It was only the gospel coming in first to Europe saying Imago Dei. Everyone's made in the image of God. And then that had to ripple through for hundreds of years. And the barbarianism and the slavery and all that. And then eventually it starts to reach critical mass and saying, no, slavery's got to go.
Well, William Wilberforce gave his whole political life to the abolishing of slavery.
That's right. And he represents how many, And then it finally reaches over here. And there's a lot I would say the more damaging than slavery in America was after slavery.
Oh, yeah, the Reconstruction era.
Well, just
Jim Crow.
the unwillingness to get it. And so, different than England. It was always a battle. So I think the real damage was, we don't really believe this. We're just forced to do it. But it doesn't happen without the gospel. It just doesn't. If you're not a Christian, I would strongly encourage you to look at Jesus Christ and the gospel, because he's perfection. He is the perfection. And anyone who wants to be a good person really
Yeah.
needs a standard.
I think what Jesus did with the Jewish culture to help them see that God loved the Gentiles too
Right.
was a critical thing.
Yeah.
And they were. This is what we all do. We grab onto things we like and love, and we hold those as if it's the only piece of information we're going to look at. The Jews in their Bible, they had plenty of. In Isaiah, it talked about the Messiah would come as a light to all nations, but that isn't really what they read it. Even Abraham and his family, like, I'm going to make you're going to have as many descendants as the stars in the sky, and from you will come other nations. All the nations of the world will be blessed through you.
Yeah.
But they didn't really hear that.
Right.
And so Jesus comes along, and
Because that would force you to go, oh, we have to deal with the other nations.
we have to
right?
share. It
We
isn't
have
all
to
about
share.
me.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, Jesus was just so good at saying, no, God is for everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a listener out there who is, they're not really in tune with Christianity, or they may even be opposed to it. I just want to invite you to have conversation, because I'll just tell you my own personal story. I have always been kind of a person of science, and so my parents don't know this, and so when my mom listens to this podcast, she's going to be probably shocked, because they sent me to Christian school, and so there was just enough of the of what was happening to me in Christian school to where I was going, so you guys are Christians?
Yeah.
So, and this is how I get treated. There's parts of this I'm kind of really willing to step away from. Let's just put it that way.
That was a nice way of putting it.
And I actually used the cover of I'm a person of science. And so I thought that for sure what I was going to discover is that science disagreed with Christianity and the precepts in the Bible. And so then I would kind of have a way out to eventually, as an adult, go, well, I don't believe in this stuff. When really it was my own wounds that were kind of driving that. But, man, I have studied and studied and studied, and I can say that there is so much continuity between science and what the Bible teaches. And then the concept of love, which is what Jesus stood for, that's really hard to argue. And most religions will adopt that thesis. But Jeremiah, I just want to kind of talk to you about one thing. Take us back to when, so I'm watching these performances year after year, and it expands in there. Now there's school showings. Mm-hmm. And so the kids are pouring in by the busloads to see this production. And if you want to see true excitement, you should go to the kids.
It's so great.
It's the best, right? And so take us back to now. Okay, George Floyd has been killed. And so now as a city leader, as somebody who's known prominently in the city for what your art brings, tell us how that actually led to the start of Unite KC.
Well, our partnership with Pastor Serve and its founder, Jimmy Dodd, he has so many relationships in the city.
Oh, boy.
And in the universe.
Yes. Everybody knows Jimmy Dodd. There's that book I'm writing. So.
That's right. And it's a worthy book. So Jimmy, early on when we started, he was just behind it right away. Charles Briscoe, behind it right away. And so we were just kind of privy to all these relationships. And then they would use, and other pastors like Gary would use the event to gather people and introduce people to each other. And every year there'd be new people coming and just having a life-transforming experience, an inspirational moment. And one of those people was Dayton Moore, who started Unite KC, and he was the manager of the Royals at the time. And so he kind of joined the circle of people who'd been inspired by the show and built relationships through it. So after George Floyd's death, he was on the phone with Jimmy immediately and said, we have to do more. Jimmy calls me, we have to do more. And I'm like, more? I mean, I'm killing myself having to produce this, and I'm meeting everyone I can meet in the city and going to every event I can go and just learn about the cultures in Kansas City. And so Dayton was really the impetus to lead bringing people together. And what I would say is you have someone like a John Brooks who's already doing it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And you have a Jimmy Dodd who's already doing it. So Dayton really gathered people who'd been doing it for 10, 20 years that he knew, and Jimmy knew in that circle, and brought collectively hundreds of years, if you will, of blood, sweat, and tears. And that's why I think Unite KC, it just started with a bang, you know, and people came together in hundreds, like a couple hundred at a time. And it was needed. It's needed to kind of unify people's efforts, you know. Well, and just your merger kind of speaks to that. You're merging the two ministries because we don't want to be isolated silos doing similar. Why not come together and let it build? So I think, you know, Dayton is really the one that just said, we got to do this. And he was right, and it's produced great fruit already. And it's always going to be a moving target, what the community needs and what's needed.
Right.
Because, like I said, humans. So one of the things I've learned over all these years is humans really have a Stockholm Syndrome relationship with racism. We're devoted to it, right?
Right.
It looks different depending on your background, your color maybe, because, you know, whatever it is. But we have this Stockholm Syndrome. We don't want to let it go. We want to defend it, even if we hate it.
Wow.
Even if we say we don't like it. We have this Stockholm Syndrome attachment to it where we keep it we keep the relationships to it, et cetera, going, whatever that looks like. And I think that describes my experience of why it keeps coming back, whether, and it looks different, but it might be a similar attitude. Do I like the relationship of being above? Do I like the relationship of being a victim, you know, of it? And when I say like, I mean comfortable with. Am I comfortable with it to a point where I'm blind to how I'm attached to it? So I can be fighting it, but I can be actually living out patterns that keep me in the prison of racism. Am I dependent upon constantly categorizing the black and the white, the black and white? When the Bible is very clear, we're humans. But by constantly categorizing it, I'm keeping that Stockholm attachment.
Perpetuating it,
Yeah. But there's lots of language and there's hard things to discuss, courageous conversations. But I think one of the things I've learned is to keep kind of rinsing out my language, the things I've gotten used to, my attitudes, so that I'm not stuck in that prison of racism.
And don't you think that has a lot to do with identity? What I think of when I think of the challenge of overcoming race is people form their identity by a lot of things. You know, I'm a father. You know, I'm a worker. I'm a white man. I'm an old white man. You know, there's a lot of things that are I would call more surface level, and we can. It's easy to find our identity there.
Yeah.
And then we can compare our identities against each other. But when our identity is in Christ, and our identity is, we say, I'm a child of God, that means I'm a brother or a sister to every other child of God. So my family is very diverse, if I think about it that way. If I think about my relationship with God, that's the primary. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a follower of Jesus. I might have different political views. Most people do. But if we find our identity in Christ, then it just starts to change the way we relate to people. We start looking for what we have in common instead of what is different because of that identity in Christ.
You know, Jeremiah, I have kind of like a little funny story, but it illustrates something I want you to touch on a little bit. So in the early years, when you weren't an international star.
That was very early. It started, I was so...
But I remember I just constantly would invite people to come see the Underground. And so I would go da 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 da, and this guy named Jeremiah Enna. And so, if you kind of think about the history of names, Jeremiah kind of conjures up a different image in your mind of what you must look like. So
yes, yeah, I've had that. Oh, I've had that.
So so then they come to the show and stuff, and I go, I want to introduce you to Jeremiah. And so I go, this is my good friend Jeremiah.
And they're like,
and so Jeremiah goes away, and they go, he's a white dude? Are you kidding? And so it's gone from this surprise that you, as a white man, would know so much about this very sensitive subject of racism and slavery in America, to one year, I remember a lady corralled me up in the foyer, and she was giving me the business about, this is the way this is depicted, and then you could expect it because he's a white guy, and da 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 da. How have you dealt with taking up this position? How have your white friends responded? How have your black friends responded?
Yeah. Boy, there's just been so much. Well, I have all kinds of friends, and they've been so supportive.
There you go.
And so you can't make everyone happy. You just can't. And it doesn't mean that they're bad. Someone has a criticism like that. It doesn't mean they're bad. It means that, they might be super hurt or upset because things haven't gone the way people promised. All kinds. There's, a million stories. And so I don't get too defensive about it, because there is a million ways you can tell a story. And you can manipulate a story. We're not manipulating anything. We're just telling it as it was. And in fact, we are adding in parts of history that have been removed from it.
I would agree.
Right.
There has been the kind of academic effort to kind of remove the Christian story in it all.
Right.
Because then you'd have to face its significance in ending slavery. In America and in the West. So, I haven't taken it personally. And there have been times, though, I have been called things and dealt with things, and my friends, especially if I've been called a racist or whatever, and I have a lot of people who are black who are friends who they just step in between me and the accuser, and I won't call out their names, but they know how much I love them and they love me, and we do a lot for each other,
right?
So they'll just step forward and say, "Excuse me, did you want to talk to me about something?"
Right, right.
But it's a sensitive thing. But I think people, at least the majority of people, have sensed our heart on the issue, which is really, hey, we're trying to bring people together and perpetuate. Let's call it the spirit of the Underground Railroad. It's not just history; it speaks to us today, and we are fooling ourselves personally and individually and corporately if we think, oh, I'm a good person. I would never perpetuate patterns of thought. It's those other people that do it. Black or white, green or yellow, whatever. And if you think about Unite KC, if you really think about the concept of unity across cultures and people groups and all that kind of stuff, that's a Jesus thing.
It is.
We don't really want it as humans. People might have fooled themselves and thought, oh, but that's what I want. I love multiculturalism. No. You think that came from your depths of your heart, but it exists here kind of, but only because there's this value of the human person at the base, which is a Christian vision. It's not a humanist vision.
Right.
And I can't say enough, a lot of people may know, but Thomas Holland, the historian, writing the book Dominion, is probably one of the most important books of our time. Now, he wrote it as one of the new atheists and a key leader in that group. But he acknowledged, a lot of these things that are Christian in the transformation of Europe and the West that I think are just human. Positive thinking, the value of the person, justice. These are Christian concepts.
Yes.
And I have just fooled myself to think they were mine all along, that I was so bright and intelligent. So his the writing of Dominion, his then conversion to Christianity, is one of the most important ones I think we have. And then Ayaan Hirsi Ali's conversion to Christianity from that, both her intellectual and kind of honest response to that, as well as how it personally, the transformation of her interior life, freedom from anxiety and fear. These are probably two of the most important conversions in the public square that also speak to this issue. These are not unity and multicultural value. All cultures are not the same.
Right.
They're not the same. And we have to be able to say that, but based on what? And that is where Jesus Christ is so important, you know.
One of the things I enjoyed that you did, Jeremiah, was you would have these book, I don't know if the book readings, or you would have the author come at Culture House and expound on some of these things that were...
Oh, our lecture series, the Idea Kitchen,
right, yes. I thought that was really, really good because it stretches us beyond our own sphere of the things that naturally came into our orbit. Now we're reaching out into the kind of books or kind of authors that you're talking about, and we're learning from them. So I thought that was really good.
Yeah, brilliant.
Another groundbreaking piece that you did was you guys, you partnered with an author here in town to do what you're calling the Go Underground series, and it's 4 lessons. I have not run into a finer small group guide where you can actually start to broach this subject at a coffee shop, you know, with people at work, on break or whatever. So again, kudos. You've just done so much for Kansas City. And when I describe Jeremiah and his wife's work here in Kansas City, they want to steal you from as you're one of our treasures. And so thank you again.
You're welcome.
And thanks for coming on our podcast.
This has been fun. Thanks for having me.
Before you let him go, though, I'm really curious when you think about where we are today. Like, what have you learned from the past that you would say, and this is how we apply it today?
It's been almost 20 years, right? And watching this happen. And I would say when people are upset because of the tension in the culture and the difficulty, and my thing was, oh, no, this is good. It's been brought up to the surface. This is where people are at. So I think the discussions, the tensions, the emotion is actually a part of the healing process. I would say, though, Stockholm Syndrome. Are we going to heal?
Yeah.
Are we going to heal for the sake of the up-and-coming generations, or are we going to strap them to the kidnapper called racism and make them continue to suffer that vision?
Yeah.
So I'd say that probably describes it the best. And everyone has to, it's not going to get done because Gary decides he's passionate about it, or Ray or Jeremiah. It's really got to be our bigger communities together, and we have to go to our church groups, and we have to talk to our relationships.
I feel hope for the middle school students, high school students who are growing up without some of the racist views that were present when I was growing up.
Yeah.
For example, I have grandkids in middle school, and one of them's now in high school. And they're going to school with people from, 5 different continents and 17 different languages in the grade school that's next to where we live. And to them, it's like they almost need if I start talking about racism or with the things of the past, it's almost like I don't get it.
Right.
Like, so they're naturally disposed to more of a, I have lots of friends. They're all my friends. Like, I'm not even questioning the fact this person's from India, this person's Chinese, this person's black. But are they American black? Did they grow up in the U.S. or did they come from Nigeria?
Right.
We
don't know by looking at a person.
Yeah, they aren't wrestling with it. So I'm wondering if we're going to see a shift as we go. I mean, America's definitely browning. So...
and I think you definitely see the freedom from, I'm this color, I must follow this strain. You see all kinds of change there.
For sure.
But I would say, and would you say, in both, but you also have this kickback, this, oh no, you will see yourself as a white person, you will see yourself as a black person, hitting very hard for young people. So and you will see yourself only as that.
Is
I
that
guess that's my point.
happening, say, post-high school, post-college, or do you think it's happening? Where is it happening?
I think it's happening in the cancel culture brought it a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's that's multi-generations.
Right.
The 20-somethings, now I think you're right. There's a lot of them that are like, we just really want to be done with this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And,
there
you
is
know,
fatigue around it.
And then, but in the marketplace, you still have a lot of, in politics, of course.
Yeah.
And I think when I talk to young people, their question is, who's making bank on this?
Right. Right.
Who's making money?
Somebody's
on
making money
keeping
off of it.
us. You know, that's their question.
Yeah.
Whatever color they are. And they're like, we're done. We're done.
You
We're
know,
done with
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So I agree. There's a lot of hope, but it's not going to happen without effort. It can happen peacefully, you know, thoughtfully. It can happen when we care for each other.
Yeah.
But it won't happen without a
Yeah.
argument.
One of our goals at Unite KC, sorry, did you?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think is to try to keep the focus on progress from being episodal. Like you see after the murder of George Floyd, all of a sudden everybody's concerned about race and trying to do better. I mean, not everybody. Many people are trying to do better.
Right.
And then it kind of calms down for a while, and then something else happens, and it's sort of episodal. I think part of our conviction is, like, you know, let's make it a daily stride
that's
in
great.
the right direction. Let's have the right conversations, build the right friendships. Let's work on it in times where it may not be quite as heated, because then we might actually make some really good progress then, and we don't wait for the next thing to happen that's going to throw our whole culture into upheaval, and we're not prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to help us to wrap up a little bit by saying it's always, your purpose is always bigger than the events that you engage in. And so we just want to thank you for picking up the mantle. I mean, it was laying there on the ground waiting for somebody to do it, do it well.
I think someone smacked me with it.
So you're going to do this. But it's changed the landscape of our city. It's helped to heal our city. It's brought people together. It's almost like going to a family reunion. And if you've never been, I promise you, by intermission, you will need tissue, because it is so moving and so impactful.
It's changed our lives.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for being with us. And Gary, why don't you take us home?
Yeah. So thanks so much for joining today. We're really glad that we can do this together. And we know that it doesn't just happen on this table. It needs to expand out into our community. So thank you so much for your participation. You can find these podcasts on Apple, on Spotify, Google Play. You'll find them at the Unite KC website. We hope that you'll like them, share them, subscribe, and then let's grow this community until the kinds of things we talk about around this table become a new norm for our culture.
Yeah, tell all your friends, and we'll see you next time on Courageous Conversations. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Courageous Conversations.
We hope you heard something that encourages you to start these conversations in your own life.
Because when we talk, listen, and learn together, we move closer to uniting people, uniting neighborhoods, and uniting KC.
And don't forget, you can find more stories, events, and resources at unitekc.org.
So until next time, go love your neighbors at all costs.